Thanks, John. Natalie, two brothers, 19-year-old Jokar and 26-year-old Tamerlan Tsarnaev, have been identified as responsible for the two explosive devices that went off at the Boston Marathon on Monday. Now, Tamerlan, the older of the two, was killed in a police shootout on Friday morning, but Jokar has been arrested and is now being charged with conspiring to use a weapon of mass destruction against persons and properties in the U.S., resulting in death. He has also been charged with one count of malicious destruction of property by means of an explosive device, resulting in death. He could either face the death penalty or life imprisonment due to those charges. Now, Jokar was also injured in that police shootout. He suffered a neck wound from a gunshot. Now, because of that, he has been having trouble communicating through normal means with authorities. However, authorities are saying that now he's communicated through writing. And in the latest update from CNN, Jokar has said that no, there were no international terrorist groups involved in the Boston bombings. Now, there was initially some debate about whether or not Jokar would be read his Miranda rights, whether or not he would be Mirandized. Authorities have come out to say that yes, at some point he was Mirandized, and the White House has now come out to say no, he will not be tried as an enemy combatant. That is something they say is reserved specifically to foreign terrorists. Instead, he will be tried in a civil court. Whether or not that civil court will be in Boston is still to be decided. Now, of course, this is a developing story. To receive all of the latest updates, you can follow us on Twitter at KVR News. Reporting live from the tower, Morgan Williams, KVR News.
Thanks, Morgan. Now, the Boston attacks have been labeled as an attack of international terrorism, but the word terrorism means different things to different people. Kian Gass shows how the world's implications affect certain communities.
Since 9/11, Islamic terrorism has dominated international media, though it only makes up a small percentage of the failed, foiled, or successful terrorist attacks.
It is the militianeers, it is sometimes, most of the time, the Muslims that do it. Even though it's a super small number of Muslims, there are about 1 billion Muslims in the world, and if 500 of them are terrorists, that's less than 1%, that's less than 0.1%.
Pulitzer Prize winner and UT Director of Journalism Glenn Frankel believes the definition of terrorism comes from conflicting sides of reporting.
It isn't the purpose of mainstream media to take one side or the other. Its purpose is to go and report the news as best it can. I think where you can really fault the media, news media, is in the lack of context.
Sophomore Bailey Mintz visited Israel last December and experienced firsthand how the media shaped the perception of her visit to the Middle East.
The media's perceptions made me a little leery, but I already knew what I wanted out of the experience, so it didn't dissuade me from going. It just made me curious to know how accurate their portrayal was.
Despite his history, Farzad is hopeful that U.S. perceptions of Muslims as terrorists will change.
It's just a small minority of extremists that cause these kind of problems. So I think in the near future, when there's more of us here that are Americanized completely and just live in the American culture, I think that will help a lot. So I think we're far from that day, but I hope I see that day.
Kian Gass, KVR News.
Authorities have thwarted an alleged terror plot in Canada. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police announced today they have arrested 2 men in connection with the plot to carry out a, quote, al-Qaeda-supported attack against passenger trains between New York and Toronto. The RCMP said while they believed the individuals accused had the capacity and intent to carry out an attack, there was no immediate threat to the public. While this comes 1 week after the bombings in Boston, authorities stress there is no connection between the two.
After the events in Boston and West, we asked Longhorns, do you feel safe?